Okay, well, I had a miscarriage at 12 weeks. Okay, so I have 4 children. I have my son Kobe, who's 15, and then I have Josie, who is 4, and then I have Silas, who will be 3 in heaven, and then I have Elijah, who's 15 months. And before Josie, I had a miscarriage at 12 weeks, and we just kind of went through the motions on that, and then we had Josie 12 months after our miscarriage. So when we were pregnant with Silas, we got pregnant right away with him. Super excited. We got pregnant right away. Didn't have any struggles, which we did with our daughter, Josie. So to our surprise, we got pregnant right away, and everything was great. I ran through my entire pregnancy with him and just felt wonderful, no issues, nothing. And it was 26 weeks pregnant that I went to lay down about 9 o'clock at night, and all of a sudden, my water broke. And I'd never had that experience before. My other 2 children were born cesarean. So I was standing there by my bed, and I'm like, oh my goodness, my water broke. What's happening? I didn't think it was a big deal. So I drove my husband and Josie to the doctor just up the street, and I was like, yeah, I think that my water broke. I'm not really sure. And so they confirmed that it was probably my water, and they took me by ambulance down to Abbott, and they just did some tests and stuff there, and I was super excited because I was like, oh, we'll just do this, I can go home. And they're like, no, you're not going anywhere. You're stuck here. So I was 26 weeks pregnant. Water broke. I have a 2-year-old at home, and that was that. So I sat at Abbott for 3 weeks where the doctors monitored the baby every morning and every night for an hour, and everything always looked great. His heartbeat was great. His movement was great. I felt great. The only thing that he ever failed was lack of fluid because I did not have, obviously my water broke. So I was there for about 3 weeks, and leading up to Silas's death, the week before, I started to lose a lot more water. Silas must have moved. I had had a 2nd level ultrasound that Monday that confirmed everything was great. Once again, it was the water. And then it was that Thursday night. I just didn't really feel good, and my nurse came in and she said, Amber, you should probably lay on your left side. And I'm like, well, that's weird. Why would someone tell me to lay on my left side? So I just kind of listened to her a little bit, and I just was like, okay. And so everything was fine that night. Woke up the next morning and had a really bad headache. Didn't feel good. I was waiting for my mom to come down to the hospital, and had a couple of friends come down, and things weren't looking very good that morning. They kept me on the monitor for about 2 hours instead of an hour because there wasn't a lot of movement, but he was still moving and the heartbeat was still really good. And then the nurse took me off monitoring and said, yep, we're good. So we did 2 hours that morning. We wheelchaired down to have some lunch, came back into the room, and that's when my favorite lady came in to give me my massage. And didn't think anything of it then. I just still didn't feel very good. And then I had supper. Then they came in to do my night monitoring, and I knew something wasn't right. They just kept looking for a heartbeat, and I'm like, there's no baby. I just know there's no baby because I looked, kind of thought back to when I had that massage, and I was like, gosh, there was no movement then. And anyways, they came in, they're like, went and got the doctor and to make sure, and like, no, it'll be just fine. The baby's just moved and whatever. So there was no heartbeat. So I had the typical, we're sorry. So here I'd sat at Abbott Hospital for about 3.5 weeks, waiting to deliver a baby at 34 weeks because everything was great and everything was going to be wonderful. So now I was 30 weeks pregnant, and I felt like I just wasted an entire month sitting in the hospital waiting to deliver a baby that wasn't even going to be brought home. So my husband, I called him at work, and I'm like, we don't have a baby. And he raced over, and I mean, it was just all so surreal because we were under doctor's care. We were under doctor's supervision morning and night. And I just can't figure out why it would happen under doctor's supervision. So then we had to wait that night. The doctor actually came in and told me that I could go home and think about what I wanted to do. But I didn't want to go home. I had been sitting in the hospital for a month. I didn't want to go home. And then he also told me that I had an option to deliver vaginally, and I didn't want to do that because I had already had 2 cesareans, and if my uterus erupted, then I would have no chance of ever having a baby again. So we opted for a cesarean. So I had to wait until the next morning. We decided to stay in the hospital because I wasn't going to leave the hospital pregnant with a baby in my belly that wasn't living. And so that morning, my parents drove back down, came in. Aaron and I slept in the hospital. Well, we didn't sleep. We laid in the hospital bed. I was completely shocked that we were going to have to give birth to a baby that wasn't living, that I was actually going to have a cesarean. When they told me that my baby died, I thought, well, how is this thing coming out of me, and what are you guys going to do? I had no idea that I was going to actually have to deliver. I just, and I remember friends telling me, oh, take lots of pictures, take lots of pictures. I'm like, no way, that's disgusting. I'm not going to do that. So I'm glad I had 12 hours to actually lay in the hospital and think about it, because we did take a lot of pictures. So that morning, we delivered cesarean. We held Silas for probably 45 minutes. My parents got to come into the operating room with us. And they were there, and they sang to Silas, and we played toys with him, and I'll just never forget the exact smell, the exact moment of Silas just laying here and wondering what the heck happened. So I did hold him for a while. I look back and I wish that I would have kept him and brought him to my room for at least a couple more hours. I wish that I would have had my 15-year-old come and see Silas. But I didn't know. They didn't do a good job telling me what I should and shouldn't do, and what I might regret and what I should have done. So Silas was born, 3.5 pounds, 30 weeks pregnant, and we have thousands of pictures. We had a funeral for him. Lots of people came. And now, to this day, it's not a day that doesn't go by that I don't think about him. And I do a run for Silas every year now, and that's kind of my thing, to have everyone remember him. It's the 3rd annual one. I don't really know what else to say.
How did people support you?
Okay. Well, people supported us. They're really good. I started a Facebook page for Silas Lee Goodyear, and I had so many followers follow that, and I'd have messages come in, and I really journaled everything through there with how I felt that day. For the first year of Silas's life, I probably journaled on there 1 or 2 times a day, and I'd have messages come in from people. Oh my gosh, I had a stillborn, 15 years ago. I had one 14 years ago. Thank you so much for sharing your story. So I very much used Silas to support other people for the first year. It wasn't until I got pregnant with Elijah, my little rainbow baby, then when he was born, that I actually felt like I needed help in therapy. So I think I supported other people for the first year, and then I finally allowed people to help me and went to therapy just because the anxiety was so bad, and realizing that Silas dying was actually a big deal, that it actually did happen. And so tons of support from my mom and my dad, and then you have the other part where some people just don't get it. You have other family members that have no idea what you're going through, and I feel like society doesn't get it sometimes unless you're in that little club, and you don't even have to say anything to somebody whose baby's died. You guys can just hug, and that's all you need. So we do a lot every year. We'll do a birthday party for Silas. We'll send some balloons off to heaven. My mom and dad are really good about including him in holidays and sending things off like that. But I'd say that's our biggest support, is just being connected with the family. And I'm a Christian, and I have a lot of Christian moms that has helped me and prayed for me, and that's all I know about support.
Do you have anything else you want to add to your story?
I don't think so. I think that one thing I could add is that I was really angry at my team of doctors. I had 12 doctors watching over me morning and night for 3.5 weeks. And that team of doctors didn't do what they should have done. They should have monitored more. They should have kept me on consistent monitoring. And I look at the doctor that delivered Elijah, and he brought him here living and met every need of mine, every fear, every anxiety, every wish, everything that I ever needed. So I think having a good doctor is definitely a good thing.